The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Don't forget the all-new X channel is up and running. It officially launches the 1st of December. That's at www.xzbnchx.com. My guest this hour is a gentleman we've had the pleasure of having on the show a number of times. He's a most interesting guest and author. His name is Steve Alten. And back in July, Exonation, as you'll remember, physicists in Geneva announced the existence of the Higgs boson, or God particle, a subatomic particle thought to be the key to understanding the makeup of the universe. What these physicists forgot to mention is that smashing protons together at near light speed using the Large Hadron Collider also produces a potentially planet-ending byproduct, miniature black holes. While CERN physicists contend that these black holes are too small to threaten the Earth, a new book just released by our guest this hour, Steve Alten, who is a New York Times best-selling author, links the Hadron Collider with two very real cataclysmic threats prophesied by the Mayan Calendar, with the doomsday event predicted for December the 21st of this year. Joining me now is Steve Alten. And Steve, welcome back to the X Zone.
Good to be back, Rob.
Tell me about this, Steve. Everybody's talking about the December the 21st, end of the Mayan calendar, doomsday, planet X, apocalypse, galactic alignment. And you come along and say, well, hold on, there may be more than myth to all this. Tell us about it.
Well, in PHOBOS, Mayan Fear, PHOBOS like phobia, as you mentioned, we get involved with the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva. And the collider, it's a well-known, it's not a well-known fact, but it's a fact passed on by the physicists there, that in the process of trying to recreate the universe as it was just seconds after the Big Bang, they're also creating miniature black holes. Now, the physicists tell us that there's nothing to worry about here because the black holes are tiny and they disperse after a little bit, and they're not going to be able to escape. But there is a theoretical black hole called a stranglet. And a stranglet has enough mass to continue to gain mass. And what would happen, and I've consulted with a physicist on this, is that if a miniature black hole escaped the Large Hadron Collider, it would be drawn back and forth through the Earth's core. And every time it passed through, it could, as it grew larger, and remember, you can't see a black hole. We see images of them. We know there's a black hole at the center of our universe. The center of the Milky Way galaxy. But you can't see it. You see the effect it has on the cosmic mass around it, but you can't see it. So as this miniature black hole grew larger, we wouldn't see it, but we would see the effects of it. So, and every time it passed through certain areas, it could cause a seismic event. And the two major seismic events that are written about in the storyline in PHOBOS, Mayan Fear are pretty major events.
All right, why don't we save that until we come back from this commercial break, Steve? Always great having you with us. Exonation, Steve Alten is our special guest this hour. www.stevealten.com. That's www.stevealten, and that's ALTEN.com. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Monday through Friday on the Talkstar Radio Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. Steve Alten is our guest. His website is www.stevealten.com. I'll be back with Steve on the other side of this commercial break in 2 minutes as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Exonation, December the 21st, 2012, according to many, is the day the Earth ends, the apocalypse, the end of the Mayan calendar. Let me see, what else do we have going on there? Some other people believe the fabled planet Nibiru is going to come back and make its presence known. Others believe the galactic alignment is going to tear the Earth apart. What do you think is going to happen? It seems that the majority of people who at one time believed the end of the world was at hand based on the Mayan calendar are changing their mind now, especially since the Mayans have come out time and time and time again and said, well, listen, we never said it was going to be the end of the Earth. An end of a time, yes, but not the end of the Earth. But Steve, during the research that you did, is there a connection or a tie-in between the end of the Mayan calendar, the year 2012, and what could be happening with these small black holes?
Well, I think first it's important for your listeners to understand exactly what the Mayan calendar is. A calendar, by definition, is an instrument that measures how long it takes for the Earth to revolve around the sun. That's the basic definition. The Mayan calendar is an instrument that measures that a 10,000th of a day more accurately than the Gregorian calendar, which came about 1,500 years later, which is the basis for our modern-day calendar. So you can't easily dismiss the Mayan calendar because it's sophisticated far beyond its years. The second thing is that the calendar is made up of 20-year epochs called katumes, and each katum has its own prophecy, and its own repeating cycle. So a lot of these katumes have prophesied things that have come true, whether it was the assassination of Lincoln or Kennedy or 9/11 or World War II or whatever it might be. The katumes have given enough information a little bit more specifically than a Nostradamus prediction. The other thing is that the calendar itself is made up of 3 different calendars and one which sort of works like the gears of a clock. And so the clock itself, the calendar itself, is made up of 5 great cycles. Now, the last 4 cycles have ended in some type of cataclysm. The 5th cycle is the end date on the 5th cycle, which is the current one, is December 21st, 2012, less than 30 days from now. So this is not something that's just come out of thin air. This is something that's been around for thousands of years that this calendar was going to end.
But it's been around for thousands of years, but the hype hasn't, the hype only started about, 10 years ago?
If not even that. Maybe with the 2012 movie, maybe with some other books that have come out, including My Domain series.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've gotten closer to the date, the hype has elevated.
Well, do you think that something catastrophic is going to happen on December the 21st, 2012?
I think that we have gotten into a dark period over the last 20 years,
mm-hmm.
that has cycled higher since 9/11. That is leading us down a path that's going to eventually take us to a fork in the road. Now, whether that fork in the road comes on December 21st, I don't know. But, when people ask me, and I get asked all the time, do you really think the world's going to end or humanity is going to end on the 21st of December? My response is, first of all, from a scientific standpoint, you have to realize that there have been major extinction events that have occurred on this planet over the last 4 billion years. Just because we haven't been witness to one doesn't mean that they don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
An asteroid strike happened 65 million years ago off the coast of what is now Chichen Itza, or off the Yucatan Peninsula where the Mayan homeland Chichen Itza is, and wiped out the dinosaurs. Now, if that asteroid had not hit our planet 65 million years ago, we wouldn't be around, because by destroying the dinosaurs, that asteroid paved the way for the ascension of primates and modern man.
Right.
So that was an extinction event. There have been others. 250 million years ago was the biggest one that hit in Antarctica, or what is now Antarctica, and it wiped out nearly 90% of every living species on the planet. So asteroids are one thing. Other things could be man-made events, a man-made virus that's unleashed that can wipe out civilization or humanity. So these things exist to do the job. Now, 2 of them are mentioned in PHOBOS, Mayan Fear that are real events. And when I write a book, I try to include things that are real in there, that are actual things that we need to think about. The first of these seismic-related events is a volcano that's located on Palma Island, and that's in one of the Canary Island chains, which is off the west coast of Africa. And the volcano is called La Cumbravia, and it's dangerous because the entire western face of this mountainside, this volcano, is ready to slide into the Atlantic Ocean. And on the next eruption, it could happen. And when it does happen, scientists say a trillion tons of earth will hit the ocean at free fall speed, creating a mega-tsunami, a wave that's 3,000 feet high, that will rush across the Atlantic Ocean at 500 miles an hour and strike the eastern seaboard of the United States as well as other countries. And obviously that's a devastating event. The second event,
mm-hmm.
Rob, is even more devastating, and that's located in Yellowstone National Park. People don't realize it. Most people don't realize it, but the driving force behind all the geysers and
mm-hmm.
and hot pools is a caldera. Now, caldera is like a super-volcano. It doesn't have a volcanic cone. It's basically a pocket of magma. And in Yellowstone, it covers hundreds of square miles beneath Yellowstone Park. Well, the caldera has erupted in intervals of 400,000 years, and the next eruption is overdue. We know that because the caldera is actually pushing up the earth in key places in Yellowstone, including beneath the lake.
In fact, in the movie 2012, they used that scenario.
Exactly, that's right. The hippie sort of character I think
Woody Harrelson, yeah.
played him. Was the caldera that erupted. And when the caldera erupts next, and it will, we just don't know when, besides the devastation that will cause in the immediate area, the real dangers that will unleash an ash cloud that has the equivalent ash cloud of 10,000 Mount St. Helens eruptions. And that much ash in the atmosphere will blot out the sun's rays and lead to an ice age. And that is a extinction event.
Steve, how do we explain the fact that here we are talking about the Mayans, their calendar, it is so precise, and yet, according to today's standards, they were so primitive?
It's an enigma, and you're absolutely right, because this is a group, a culture that invented the Mayan calendar as well as other things, and yet they never mastered the wheel. So how were they able to do this? Well, the answer lies in their teacher. The ancient Mayans worshipped a great teacher, a great wise man named Kukulkan. And Kukulkan has been described as being a tall Caucasian man with long flowing white hair and beard and deep-set blue eyes. And if you go to Chichen Itza, and I've been there a few times, the centerpiece, perhaps the most magnificent monument in all of the Mayan civilization, is the Kukulkan Pyramid. And it's in Chichen Itza, and it's a four-sided ziggurat of stone, 91 steps on each of the four sides, plus a platform up top. And if you count that up, it equals 365 as in days of the year. Well, every fall and spring equinox for the last 1,000 years or so, the shadow of a giant serpent has appeared on the northern balustrade of the temple. It's a light trick created by the Mayans so that when the sun hits the stairwell, it creates the body of a giant serpent. Well, that Kukulkan, first of all, just by demonstrating the ability to create something like that, we know how intelligent he was. But it wasn't left there as a tourist attraction, even though it attracts maybe 50,000, 100,000 tourists every equinox. It was left as an ancient warning.
An ancient warning of what, Steve?
Well, we don't know, because, it could be the Mayan calendar's doomsday prophecy. See, what happened is that, first of all, I described Kukulkan as a tall Caucasian. There were no white men in the Yucatan Peninsula 1,000 years ago. The first Caucasians didn't come over until 500 years later, when Cortez invaded the Yucatan Peninsula for Spain. And when he came over in 1519, and he was predicted to come over, by the way, by one of the Jaguar prophet Balaam. Balaam predicted a white man would come over with a new religion and create havoc. When Cortez came over, he came over with the Spanish Inquisition, and the Spanish priests took a look at the Mayan codices and burned nearly every one of them, and that was, the codices contained the information that you just asked about, what the pyramid's doomsday warning pertains to.
Steve, is it possible that Kukulkan was actually an albino? No. There are statues and hieroglyphics that indicate, his stature and his description, but I wouldn't say that he would be albino. So he just didn't fit into the culture as well as the way that the other people looked. How did he communicate with them?
Well, he spoke their language, but it was said that he came from the sea.
Interesting.
And that when he left was when the Mayans turned to human sacrifices. And just like the movie Apocalypse describes, they used to march people up to the top of the pyramid and spread them out over a stone idol called a chakmul, and basically plunge an obsidian dagger into their chest and take out the still beating heart and kick the body down the steps and
Steve, we've got to take our news break right now. Steve Alten's my guest. www.stevealten.com. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away. You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you fire. I'll take you to burn. Fire. I'll take you to learn. I'll see you burn. You fought hard and you saved and earned, but all of it's gone to burn.
Explanation, Steve Alten is my special guest this hour, www.stevealten.com. And we're talking about Steve's new book, PHOBOS, Mayan Fear. Steve, before we went to the break, we were talking about the pyramid, 365 steps. That's including 91 times 4, plus the platform on top, and how the Mayans, after Kukulkan left, would actually take human sacrifices, tear out their heart, kick the body down, and away you go. Were the Mayan like this before Kukulkan came there, or did the sacrifices start after he left?
From what I have researched, the sacrifice started after he left. So it was an attempt to bring Kukulkan back to resolve their problems.
Now you said that he apparently came from the sea. Is it possible that Kukulkan was one of those who may have sailed from Atlantis?
Well, what's interesting is that if you look at every ancient culture that has been successful, they've all had the same deity described in their records. The ancient Egyptians that built Giza, they had their deity. The Aztecs, the Inca had Viracocha. The Aztecs had Quetzalcoatl. And one of the things my domain series has put together is that, like you said, not from Atlantis necessarily, but who were these guys? Where did they come up with their scientific background?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I said I agree.
Yeah, and the solution, which was the main character in the storyline, Julius Gabriel, who's an archaeologist, came up with, was that these guys were extraterrestrials, that they had come back to our planet to warn us about the cataclysm to come on December 21st, 2012.
How is it then that the Mayans were able to successfully predict the date of December the 21st, 2012, which they are saying, or some Mayans do, because I went down to the Mayan myself, and I couldn't find one Mayan who even agreed closely with the aspect of anything negative happening on December the 21st, 2012, which I was glad to hear. But and their knowledge where they could actually predict December the 21st, 2012, way back when, as the date of the galactic alignment.
Well, I've been down there and I've talked to some of the Mayans too, and what's sad is that this culture that had been, ruled the entire area for hundreds of years has now been relegated to driving taxis and selling souvenirs. And
well, not unlike the North American Indians.
Exactly, and unlike it would sort of, asking a Mayan today about the Mayan calendar, it would be the equivalent of asking me, a Jew, about what happened on Mount Sinai with the Israelites.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the Mayan on the street. I'm talking about the Mayans that are archaeologists, that are professors, and that are part of the established government.
Well, I've talked to. I haven't talked to a Mayan archaeologist, to be honest, but I've talked to Mexican archaeologists that have all sorts of varied opinions.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm speaking as a fictional author,
Sure.
so I make my living out of taking information like this and spinning it into something that's fun to read and something that's alarming as well.
Yes, but what I've learned over the years doing this show, that many authors write fiction in order to get a point across, because if you put
Absolutely.
it's an easier read for somebody, and it adds a little bit of intrigue into the very same message that they'd given a novel.
100% correct. Absolutely. In every novel that I've written pertaining to the Mayan calendar, there's a purpose to it. In PHOBOS, Mayan Fear, the purpose is to get across that there's these two ticking time bombs of nature, and more important, that we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing in Geneva. That this $10 billion science experiment that smashes protons together at near light speed to recreate the elements that led to the Big Bang is dangerous.
Why is it necessary?
A great question. It's not necessary. The information that we garner from this is not going to put a new breakfast juice on the table. It's not going to create a new computer. It's not going to increase our lifespan.
It's not going to feed the hungry. It's not going to create jobs. It seems as if they're spinning a PR yarn in order to hide, in my opinion, the real purpose.
Well, and the real purpose, in your opinion, would be what? Because in my opinion, it's ego.
Well, that too. I agree. Yeah.
And it's Nobel Prize, or it's getting a bunch of prizes like the Nobel Prize or something for proving that this Higgs boson exists. Well, so what if it does?
Exactly. Big deal.
You're risking the planet to try to prove a point and win a bunch of awards. When you're creating a miniature black hole and you don't know, because it's never been done before, what's going to happen, that's a dangerous situation. And the fact is that seismic events have increased dramatically over the last 5-6 years, which was about the time when the Large Hadron Collider came online. And they've had problems with this machine that they had to shut it down as well.
There are those who are going to say, Steve, and I've heard this argument as well, and I'm sure you have, well, nothing's happened up till now, so what are the chances that anything wrong or negative will happen?
Well, in my book, and to quote one of the characters in PHOBOS, Mayan Fear, there's two things that you don't do with an atom. You don't split it, and you don't collide it. You don't smash it. We know what happens when you split it. You create a nuclear reaction.
Yes.
And if you collide it, you create miniature black holes. And you're dealing with humans. For instance, in 2008, the collider had to be shut down when the temperatures in one sector of the particle collider began to rise, and they lost a ton of liquid helium, and it actually escaped into the tunnel. There was another glitch. The particle accelerator overheated when it was invaded by a piece of baguette that was dropped by a bird that found its way into the particle accelerator. So, this is, you don't want to screw something up that is dealing with a black hole. And for a physicist to say, well, there's no danger, how are you basing your information?
I don't understand the need for humans to play God. I never have, and I never will. I see no sense to it.
And how interesting and how prophetic that they're calling it the God particle.
Exactly, because they want to be gods. I know in the book of Genesis it said, and God said, "Let us create man in our image and our likeness." But I think we're pushing the envelope.
I don't think God ever intended us to mess around with the atom.
I agree.
And to recreate the elements of the Big Bang. One time is enough. But, like I said earlier, I worked with a physicist in writing this book, not because I wanted to gauge his opinion. I was going to write the storyline anyway. But as I would send him chapters that dealt with the Large Hadron Collider and the stranglets, the miniature black holes that can gain mass. His response was, your theories are correct, that this is a real danger, and just because these physicists at the Large Hadron Collider don't think it can happen doesn't mean it can't. That added another little element of fear for me.
I guess so. Steve, what is the worst imaginable thing that could actually happen as a result of the Hadron Collider?
Well, the book talks about two seismic events perpetrated by the collider's escaping stranglet. But the worst event happens as well in the book, which is one of these black holes gets larger. Mm-hmm. And once it gets to the point that it reaches critical mass, it begins inhaling everything in its vicinity, just like a black hole would do. And so what's the nearest body of mass in the vicinity of the black hole? It's the planet.
God forbid you're right, and I'm hoping you're wrong, Steve. I really am. How long would it take for the planet to succumb to the events, the catastrophic events that you're talking about?
Minutes. It would happen so quickly that we wouldn't even realize what was happening.
Looking at the brighter side of things.
Yes, please.
December 22nd comes along. Same old, same old. Sun rises, there's still problems in the Middle East, the economy still sucks. Well, the world hasn't changed. What does that tell us?
Well, as I said a little bit earlier, I think that December 21st is a fork in the road for humanity. I think that we're either good getting better or bad getting worse, and it's up to each of us to make that decision. I think there is a judgment day coming. It may not come all at once on one day, but I think that we have to change as a species if we're going to survive.
Could this be the final wake-up call for this planet?
I think it could be a final wake-up call. I think the planet will go on unless if one of these black holes does escape, as PHOBOS Mayan Fear is the storyline. Right. If that happens, then obviously that's it. If we're able to, avoid that scenario, then I think humanity is at a crossroads, because we can't continue on like we're doing.
Well, that's true. That's true. At any given time now, it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, where it's going to escalate to the point where there's no return. And it's nice to see all the nations of the world really trying to quell the events in the Middle East because of the nuclear power that Iran is believed to now possess, and the itchy gun finger of Israel. And you've got the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton over there. You've got the President of Egypt trying to work something out. And there's a ceasefire now, but the Lord only knows how long this ceasefire is going to last. So how do we take a constructive way of taking your book and the dangers or the prophecies that lie within the pages of your book and turn the warning into action? You mentioned the Middle East. I don't even think the real danger is coming from the Middle East.
I think the real danger is coming from greed. You look at the situation, which I've written about before, with these genetically modified foods.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You have Monsanto that is basically dictating to the world that farmers are going to buy their seeds. And why? Because their seeds have been genetically modified to handle their own pesticide, Roundup. And so these things are getting into our food. And what's disturbing is that the food secretary right now, the food czar, is a former Monsanto executive. So it's so pervasive in our culture and so accepted that unless the people revolt against this stuff, and in order to revolt, you have to know about it, and that's where books come into play. it's not going to stop.
Wasn't Donald Rumsfeld part of the Monsanto group at one time?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, he was.
With aspartame, yeah.
And what happened was that's a whole new story, but it comes down to greed again. And basically, when Reagan got in office, he replaced the FDA head so that he put in somebody who was friendly to Monsanto, so Monsanto could get exactly what it wanted.
Unreal. Steve, stand by. You and I have to take our final break. As always, great having you with us, and congratulations on yet another super book. Exo Nation, my guest this hour is a good friend of the Exxon. Steve Alten is his name. His new book, PHOBOS, Mayan Fear. His website is www.stevealten.com. That's www.stevealten.com. And speaking about December the 1st, 2012, we are going to be live on air for that 24-hour period. We have reports coming in from the Orient. We have reports coming in from the United Kingdoms, reports coming in from Egypt. We have reports coming in from across Canada, the United States. We also have reports coming in from Australia. It's going to be a very interesting night. I'm looking forward to speaking to everybody on the 25th hour. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the Exxon continues with my very special guest this hour, Steve Alten. www.stevealten.com. We'll both be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that.
Welcome back, everyone. Steve Alten is my special guest. We're talking to Steve about his new book. It's entitled PHOBOS, Mayan Fear. His website is www.stevealten.com. First of all, Steve, as always, great pleasure having you with us. Congratulations on yet another bestseller. What's in store for Steve Alten? That's if we all survive past December the 21st.
My 12th book, The Omega Project, debuts in hardback in May or June of 2013, assuming all goes well, and it's a very fun sci-fi story. It takes place after the Great Die-Off, which occurs in the 2020s as a result of the end of oil, and takes place afterward. And the bottom line is that we have to get to Europa to get our new fuel source for fusion, and as a prelude to going out there, the hero of the story is cryogenically frozen for 30 days along with his crew, and when he wakes up, 12 million years have passed.
Wow. Can't wait to read that one, Steve. Listen, Steve, before we go, I'd like to give you a hypothetical situation. You have been elected by the people of planet Earth to be the new leader. What would be your first order of business?
My first order of business would be to cancel all genetically modified foods. I'd say that would be number one.
Yeah, what scares me about genetically modified food, Steve, is that it hasn't been around that long enough to know what the long-term effects are going to be.
Well, they actually do know. There have been studies that have been done, but the studies are being shut down. Scientists and professors and researchers are finding themselves up against, when they try to to get the truth out, they're losing their jobs because Monsanto has so much money and they donate so much money to universities that when Monsanto executive says to a major university, hey, we want this professor shut down or you lose your, $10 million
endowment
grant money, endowment, the professor's gone.
Jeez.
And so it's scare tactics, and scientists have stood up to them and lost their jobs and been discredited. And the discredit machine is, it's powerful. It's, you put out a paper and you've got 50 people voicing their disagreement with it that are all set up by Monsanto.
Steve, the time has come for us to say so long for now. Again, congratulations on another great book. I look forward to speaking to you again in the future, Steve. And your book, is that available in brick and mortar stores as well as online?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Steve Alten has been our guest this hour. Thanks, Steve. Take care of yourself. And we hope to see you, after the end of the Mayan calendar. Take care, my good friend.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye-bye, sir. Exonation, Steve Alten, what a guy, a great author, and his books, well, once you start reading them, you can't put them down, and Christmas is right around the corner. This would be a super Christmas gift, Exonation. www.stevealten.com, and I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as the X Zone continues, here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.